Hello and welcome everyone to day number 3 here, the final day for WCS Montreal 2018. Over 20 countries were represented this week as 80 players gathered to fight for that championship title, as well as $20,000. We're also at the 4th and final stop of the WCS circuit, which means that today's results will seal the fate of the 8 players to move on to the WCS Global Finals at the end of the year. We have 7 matches to look forward to today, but 1 champion to crown. Get ready and welcome everyone. This is the World Championship Series.
WCS Championship. There is nothing left for Stu. Congratulations.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. After a long, hard-fought battle all year in Challenger and the WCS circuit, it all comes down to this on the final day of our circuit events. We here in Montreal are proud to present to you the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series. I'm your host, Nathanius, as we boil things down to find our final circuit champ. Well, the action's only going to start getting bigger and better from here. Joining me on the desk are In Control and Rotterdam. It's been an amazing 3 days, lots of upsets, lots of big plays. How have you been enjoying yourself in Montreal here, Roddy?
I'm loving it, Nate. There's so many lovely people in this place, so many passionate StarCraft fans, and I think the storylines that we have going into today, when it comes to the top 8 of the WCS Global Player Ranking, I'm very excited. I'm very curious to see how it all plays out.
Now, In Control, we've had a lot of fun. There's been a lot of memery about the dominance of Serral and whether everybody was playing for first or only second place. Does anybody here actually stand a chance in your eyes to take him down?
Oh, they truly do. I think some of the known weapons against him have always been people like you, Thermal. Hero Marine, who always kind of counts himself out, is one of the guys that did take maps off him in Challenger. And Serral himself has said he's not taking anyone lightly. He's going into this one game at a time, and he's going to try and face everyone as if they're a big threat.
All right, there is a lot at stake here at the World Championship Series. We've been talking about it, $20,000 for first place, but for some of these guys, their only ticket to get to the Global Finals at BlizzCon now is to get that first place. And of course, those WCS points still a factor this late in the game. 3 circuit events won by Serral. Potential esports history to be made here, gentlemen, if he's able to win today.
I think he already made some esports history because obviously what he's done this year is ridiculous. I mean, he has more points than Showtime, Special, Neep combined. And I think even if you put Hero Marine on top of that, it gets pretty close there. So obviously his run has been ridiculous, but it's not easy. And yesterday, Nate, I would almost say that Serral looked a little human. I saw misclicks. I saw a couple of mistakes. And that's more than we see in most of his games.
He dropped games to an NA player.
You know, I think it's amazing that he's so good that that is actually something worth talking about. Like the fact that he's so good that when he drops a map, to a Jon Snow that made his first round of 16, we're all kind of like, wow, what's going on here? But the best part, too, for me is just every time they interview Serral, he doesn't talk about it like that's a crazy thing. He's just like, yep, that happened.
He owns the fact that he's one of the best players outside of Korea, if not in the world. And that's just one of the awesome things that we get to see. Kev, tell me something that you love about Serral.
Well, kind of what Jeff just said, that he's actually 7-1 in this tournament so far, and he's dropped 1 map, and we're talking about him like maybe he's not as good as he was a couple weeks ago. Maybe he's not feeling it this weekend, but what I truly love about him is just simply the way that he plays StarCraft, and that's really cliche, and it's kind of boring, but he is just so freaking complete. It's just awesome to watch him do the things that he does best. Why are you smiling at me like that?
Why are you laughing?
Serral's just...
Serral
so
is
amazing.
He's magical. Yeah. He truly is. And I've obviously been enjoying all the tournament runs this year. I mean, GSL vs. the World was perhaps the coolest thing of them all. But it's awesome. But, you know, Scarlett, she put up a really good fight in Valencia.
We've got a lot more to discuss, but for those of you that missed any of the action so far in this tournament, we've got a great recap video for you of day 2.
These roaches here are nothing more than a distraction, but that's all he needs because on the left-hand side, Serral is crushing through Jon Snow's defenses.
I think I can win it all, but like always, it's very hard, and I just try to go one match at a time and not think too much about the trophy just yet.
And all the micros down to this. Those immortals who get surrounded. The Duration Finals are gonna land!
Feels pretty good being in the quarterfinals. I actually haven't got here in WCS this year yet, and it's nice to be in Montreal. Of course, I want to get to the finals to qualify for BlizzCon. I have to play Serral next round though, which is going to be tough, but I think based on the past matches, I definitely have a chance against him.
I'm not really feeling any nerves right now. I'm really happy with how I play, and as long as I play my best, I'm just happy. Even if I won't reach BlizzCon, I just want to know that I did my best.
Coming from 2 months of Korea practice, I felt like I was having a good shot at going far. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, there's so many good players in the tournament, and you can't take anyone lightly. So, like, maybe like a round of 8 was my goal.
So many probes in the deep orange and red. Oh no!
其实当我看到海选，我觉得我其实已经感觉有点输了吧。但是今天一步打到8强，觉得有点不可思议。然后这次波5，我也觉得比较惊心动魄。反正很高兴拿下这场比赛吧。
It feels good to be back in the quarterfinals. I made my goal that I originally had for this event. I think because I don't have Serral in my bracket, I feel even better because I think I can make it to the finals now.
So it was such a slugfest, it was such a hard series. I started off behind 2-1 as well, lost the first game, and it really shocked me because I was actually winning the first game. It was a good map for me, but I lost in, you know, just like that, blink of an eye. It's really hard to come back, so I really had to take it from my toes, all the energy I had to be able to win. It feels great.
My goal is to win, of course, but it will be hard since there are so many good opponents, but I will try my best.
This is the World Championship Series. A lot of players fighting to make their dreams a reality as they push on towards the global finals at BlizzCon at the end of the year. Gentlemen, so many inspiring stories. We're seeing Raynor come out, taking out the American, the 3-time champion Neeb yesterday. What a sight to behold.
Yeah, it's just got to be the fact that he's so consistent. Like, he hasn't had a WCS where he showed up finally and then just kind of petered out in the round of 32 or group stage 2 or something like that. He's always been a threat. He only lost, as Rotterdam pointed out a lot yesterday, to Serral. And it was, you know, very one-sided, but that's kind of what Serral does. Now he's already toppled over Neeb. It's already a fantastic tournament, and I don't see any reason why we can't think of him going further. Yesterday made me an even bigger fan by saying, Terrence? What Terrence? They're walkovers for me. It's easy.
I really like this bracket. Makes me happy.
You throw was like, what? But it's real.
It's impossible not to be a fan of Raynor. It doesn't matter whether you play Terran Protoss or Zerg. You gotta love this kid, and not just for the person that he is, because he's obviously a very happy little guy. It's not just about his skill, but it's just the way that he presents himself overall, and the way that he plays StarCraft. It's so damn fun. He is the opposite of a boring player, Nate. With Raynor, you'll never get a boring game.
Yeah, really providing a lot of excellent entertainment for us. And just to keep you all up to pace on the schedule of how we'll be going through today's matches, gentlemen, it's just star-studded showdowns after another. Serral will play against Scarlett first. We'll move straight down. Lambo Showtime, Time Hero Marine, and Euthermal Raynor. A highlight match for you looking at this. Hard not to look at, of course, Scarlett as a potential upset for Serral, but anything else that stands out to you?
Scarlett, one of the only few other foreigners to win a tournament this year other than Serral. She also had the best bet at beating Serral at a WCS op. She almost did it. And then you go down the line, you got Lambo versus Showtime, 2 Germans really showing up. I mean, Showtime at the beginning of the year, we were kind of, that was the question. We're like, hey, is Showtime going to be in top form this year or not? And he's kind of showing it. I'm excited, Kevin.
Me too. I mean, it's super cool to see a Chinese player in the top 8. Love that little interview there with Time as well. He said, I looked at my group in the round of 32, and he's like, I think that's it. And now suddenly I'm here. I'm in the quarterfinals. I think that's going to be really cool. He's an underdog for me against Big Gabe because Gabe has just been freaking.
Big Gabe.
He is big. He's Gabe.
He's big and he's Gabe.
Big Gabe.
He's great at analyzing the builds of his opponents, and he's really been on fire. But for me, the personal highlight, I think it's Raynor against Utermo, man. What an amazing quarterfinal that is. And especially because it's super important for both of them.
Yeah.
Raynor, of course, to make it to the global finals has to win it all. He's not a favorite, but there is a chance. I absolutely believe there is a timeline where he can do that. But Utermo, if he just wins one round, Nate, I don't think it's guaranteed, but then he gets very close to securing a slot.
Yeah, players such as Utermo, and you know, Scarlett was talking to us earlier before the show started. She's like, I have to beat Serral if I want to go to BlizzCon. It's a huge task in front of her. Does she have what it takes? She has come close a few times this year. In control.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we were joking about it, but Jon Snow, bright and early yesterday, did make Serral trip up a couple of times. Part of that could be we start fairly early. It's a little bit weird to play there. And maybe that is the weakness in Serral. If you get him early in the morning, I don't know. It's possible. But also, Scarlett is just a different kind of ZvZ player. She's got the mechanics, she's got the skill, but she also plays off-brand weird stuff, and that can catch people off guard.
I think that's the smartest thing about the way that Scarlett approaches a best-of-5 series against Serral. I feel a lot of people, even when they feel confident, they're like, you know, I'm going to do the same thing as Serral, but I'm going to do it better. And then it turns out that you actually can't do that because he's freaking amazing and he's the best for a reason. But Scarlett is very smart. You play Roaches, I go Mutas. You go Mutas, I go Hydra Roach. You know, and he always tries to play the different style of ZvZ, and that's when those weird timings occur. I mean, I think back of the games that we saw in Valencia, that game on Dreamcatcher, if he's 10 seconds later with her Banelings, Serral does have enough. But if you can deny the vision with Mutas, basically just play whatever Serral is not playing, take the game from there, and Scarlett is really good at that stuff.
And we're going to break that match down a whole lot more, as that will be the first match that we get into. So I'll ask you another question. Do you guys think the Korea practice hype for Showtime has been delivering in this tournament?
Maybe if not even just in direct practice and the skill that you get from that, but maybe just the confidence. He went over there, he did well. You don't get a lot of... You get some Serral win tweets. You don't get a lot of Showtime ones, but I do think about the one Showtime tweet where he's like, hey guys, beat a couple of good players here, made it pretty far. He's like, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, hey, Showtime, I see you. And yes, I think it does have an impact. When you go over there and play against the best and show some results, it makes you think that you've got a chance to really do this. And we can kind of see that in his interviews. I like it.
I believe there is an impact, Nate, but I would be lying if I told you that I've really seen it so far. Because I've watched him obviously play against Nerdshow. That didn't look great. He also said he was a little bit tired. He lost his first series against Special. We didn't see that one. We saw the second one. And of course, you could say the fact that he won game one. I think we casted it together on Acid Plant. That's amazing by Showtime. But he was very far behind. So I'd be lying if I said, wow, I've never seen this level out of Showtime so far. But there is a chance that every day that goes by, he starts feeling a little better, a little more comfortable here. However, in this best of 5, I can't think of a lot of Zergs in the Korean scene that represent Lambo's style of play. I really don't.
Yeah, just a laser, basically.
That's fair. Wow, rip a laser. Speaking of Zergs, do you think we might see, after some analysis of yesterday's games, some more Burrow Baneling play against Uthermal?
Oh, geez. And if we do, hopefully they deliver! Oh, that was a tease. But yeah, it's fantastic. We've been seeing more of it anyways, actually. It's kind of funny to talk about this way, but it was non-existent, came into the meta, and then lately it's been kind of quiet. But of course, we saw a little bit more of that yesterday, so hopefully more. It's just a fantastic strategy.
Yeah.
Fun.
How about the map pool so far this season? This is the first WCS event that we've had these maps brought out. Has a map stood out to you? I'm on the side of, I think I agree with you in control. I like Fracture a lot, and we haven't really seen it this tournament. It's just been pretty much lost and found Acid Plant, and then, you know, one or the other kind of spruced in.
I'm sticking to the story. I really like Cerulean Fall, and I think yesterday with Time versus Has, it did deliver one of the craziest games of the day.
Yeah.
I really like that map, and I love the way that it plays out in all the different matchups as well.
I just want to give a tip of the hat to the map makers. Across the map pool, we have diverse and awesome games. You know, sometimes there's a map in the map pool where you're like, oh, it's this map, you have to face this thing. This map pool doesn't really have that as much. We're seeing a lot of great games there. I'm happy.
Do you think that any of these less common pick maps are likely to develop into being more popular as the season goes on? Is it just because we're starting things off?
That's kind of always the case, right? Like the two maps that survive are often very popular maps. So obviously everyone loves playing on Acid Plant. Everybody loves Lost and Found. But this map doesn't have like the real black sheep of the family here, where it's like nobody likes that map. like Fracture is the least pick, but we've seen it a pretty fair amount this tournament, like a lot more than we saw the odd pick in some of the previous tournaments. I mean, Redshift was truly something we only saw in the semifinals, and we've actually seen quite a bit of Fracture. So I think it's pretty well balanced. I'm still surprised by how often I see Parasite, and like yesterday again, I watched a couple ZvZs on it. I'm like, guys, this looks really difficult, but yeah, the Terrans are somewhat okay with it.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, very much for your feedback and your beautiful insights into the game. We're going to be getting started with the World Championship Series Montreal, day number 3. Let's get into it. It's the beginning of the end here for day 3 of WCS Montreal as we kick off our first series of the day. 8 players remain, 7 hoping to finally be a champion other than Serral. Welcome, this is the World Championship Series. I'm Nathanius, joined once again by InControl and Rotterdam. As we get into our first series, Serral versus Scarlett. Roddy, I know you're a big fan of ZvZ. Whose style do you like watching more between these two players?
I mean, you gotta love Serral's style more because Serral is the one that wins everything. But I do think, once again, to go back to what I said, I like the way that Scarlett approaches best of fives like that. And I like that she's totally okay with thinking outside of the box and trying to play a different style than Serral instead of just trying to mirror him and trying to do things better, because that is what many players have tried and many has failed at.
InControl, what is your least favorite thing about Canada?
Wow, least favorite thing about Canada? God.
Did I get him?
They've got no NFL team.
There you go.
Dang, dude. I'm like, there's so many jokes in my head that
I was going to go for they're too nice.
I like Canada, man. I don't even know about my least favorite.
You wouldn't
thing
even take a fake diss. Okay.
I can't. They're really, Montreal's been a beautiful, awesome city. We walked around, we had dinner. The people are really nice. It's great. I have nothing. You stunned me. I'm done. What am I even here for?
We just write that down under life achievements accomplished.
Here's been really struggling TVT though. That's what I know. You know.
Okay.
Well, joked yesterday.
He's 6-0 in the tournament.
It's hard to find people on his level to practice against. Okay. So let's dive into the matchup then.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to bully you.
No, it's great. I've actually I'm on the point. You did it like
okay.
To be serious real quick, I really feel that a lot of people have been looking at Scarlett as perhaps the player that stylistically has the best chance to knock out Serral of this tournament. And I was totally on that train, and I still kind of am. But now I'm also starting to get afraid because I feel the more people get behind one player to defeat Serral, based off of logical things as well, where Scarlett obviously knocked Serral out of Intox 3 Masters Pyeongchang and should have perhaps won the series in Valencia. But the more people starting to believe in that, I'm like, uh-oh. Now I feel like we're angering Serral, and now I'm afraid that it's actually not going to go that way.
I also feel like part of what's made Serral so good is you basically kind of have one chance to catch him off guard. If you don't catch him off guard, then everything after that becomes you have to outplay him, and very few people on planet Earth have been able to do that. And I say that to be a commentator, like no one actually has. Scarlett had a fantastic series a little while ago, and she made it really close and probably should have won that series, but I feel like Serral comes into this prepared for the shenanigans, looking out for the weird muta shifts, and is going to be a much more difficult opponent. I actually am a little bit worried that this is pretty one-sided.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, in a weird way, I am too, and that's so weird because if you asked me 2 days ago, it's like I really think that Scarlett has the best shot, and now that it's actually happening, my body is just like fear is taking over, and I'm like, oh goodness, please.
Ecstasy for me.
Yeah.
Your survival instincts kick in and tell you that Serral cannot be stopped.
He's a Sith Lord of StarCraft 2. I'm loving it. He's so fun to watch. He's so good.
I mean, technically, Serral, over the entire year, he has lost 4 official series of StarCraft 2 when it comes to best of 3s or more. Of course,
in 9 months.
He dropped a couple best of months, but he lost a challenger match against Elaser in January. Then he lost against Scarlett, of course, and then he lost against Mario in Classic. That's it, Nate, over the entire year.
Insane. Let's see if he'll lose again, ever again, for the rest of life. Who knows? Let's bring him out to the stage to Mix Ready to introduce our first quarterfinalist.
I am, and what a way to kick off our final day here at WCS Montreal 2018. We have the IEM Pyeongchang champion and Canadian home crowd favorite going up against the absolute best of the best and the WCS defending champion. Give it up, it is Scarlett and Serral!
Good luck.
Serral, the player with enough inertia to perhaps carry him through the end of the year. He has so much momentum behind him. #1 in circuit rankings, the 3-time back-to-back-to-back WCS champion against Scarlett, fan favorite, our Canadian player here. And as much as we love to hype up Scarlett, as much respect as she has in the StarCraft community, it is still quite the tall task. Everybody agrees for her to win this.
Living in the time of the greatest. I mean, he went over to Korea, like Kevin talked about at the opening show, and laughingly stood up to Maru and crushed him. He went up on stage and beat in sequential series to win the entire tournament. And what people don't talk too much about, not to talk too much about that tournament while we're here, is Koreans get amped up. Like, they defend their home territory, but he was able to do that anyways. Here on this stage, his mentality is so rock solid. Every time they ask him, they're like, hey, you're unstoppable. What do you think? And he says, nope, I take each series one at a time. I address my opponent. I prepare accordingly. In the past, we've had amazing players, but it gets to their head. They talk about it. They're like, yeah, I'm the best. I'm going to win this thing. And they get caught off guard. Serral does not get caught off guard. And if it does happen, it happens for like one game against like Jon Snow. And it just doesn't happen ever again.
You know what I think is really cool as well, Nate, is that sometimes, like in other traditional sports, you have 2 guys that truly shine, right? And even though they don't always compete against each other, it seems like they push each other forward, right? They both shine. And I kind of feel that's something that's happening in StarCraft right now, where Serral's winning over here, Maru's winning in Korea, and they just keep dominating their region. And it really feels like we're on that collision course, right? Where obviously that is the match that's supposed to happen at BlizzCon, but it's beautiful. I'm really excited for this best of 5, but it should be a good one.
All right, let's get into our first series of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Serral versus Scarlett.
Thank you so much, Nate and the boys. My name is Fear Dragon. I'm joined by Pig here at the commentating desk, and we are ready to hop into our first round of 8 match. Audience, I want to hear you cheer for these players, because I know that a lot of you guys are fans of some of these players. Spawning up here, the top left-hand corner of the map, we have our blue Zerg player, possibly the most dominant player of this entire year. He is from Team ENCE. He is Serral.
And his opponent down here in the bottom right-hand side, the Canadian champion, one of the most legendary players in StarCraft 2's history. And she's opening up with a very aggressive build. Down here in the bottom right-hand side, in the red, the Zerg, she is Scarlett.
Going for that slightly earlier pool. She's got the gas geyser as well. Pig, we're ramping this match off with some early aggression from Scarlett.
And she is, I mean, this is one of the shorter maps in the pool. This is Fracture, it's quite a short map. But actually, Serral has opened up with a very quick spawning pool there himself. But no gas for Serral. So Serral trying to secure an expansion. Scarlett going as aggressive as you can. She hasn't even got a queen on the way. It is all just no holds barred. She's just going to go straight for that natural. She needs to at least take that down. But seeing so many Zerglings out for Serral already, Scarlett's going to need to adapt. She's going to need to be very clever. She can't afford to just trade even Zergling counts, because you can see Serral is already up in the workers, and if he can protect this hatchery, he will be in a fantastic position.
Because Fracture is also such a small map, it's very easy for him to scout Scarlett's natural and see, oh, you don't have a natural. There is likely going to be that Baneling nest coming down, and I am going to be facing not just pure speedlings, it's going to be those Banelings getting involved. Scarlett taking some small trades, killing off a Zergling or two. She's waiting for some reinforcements, going to try and get a bit of a better angle, but Serral able to push her very far back. Serral is not going to catch wind of these Banelings just yet, but he's going to find
This is very ballsy, though. Ling Speed is about to finish, and Serral is quite far out there. Those Lings with speed, as well as the Banelings, may be able to trap Serral. Gonna get the Queen on the ramp. There is a Spine Crawler in that engagement. The slow Zerglings trying to stop some of these reinforcements, trying to split onto the Banelings as well. Serral here, dancing with death, but he does spread away the Banelings here. They want to connect with the big pack of Zerglings. One of the Banelings goes down. Incredible target fire by Serral with the slow Zerglings. Scarlett does not have a lot of units to work with. Just a couple of Zerglings, a couple of Banelings. Notice how she uses the Banelings to force Serral to split. She forces him to pull away and lets her Zerglings do the work, but she has way less production, and over time, Serral will outproduce her. He's got his own Banelings up now as well. He needs to try to save this hatchery. This Baneling starting to move down here. Scarlett clicking her own Banelings on the hatchery, immediately takes it down, but all of her Zerglings go down in the process.
Even army supply after that. Scarlett has not taken her own natural just yet, but that is still a big pickoff, killing off a queen as well as that hatchery. Spinecrawler burrowed on the low ground, creep tumor immediately being planted to keep that Spinecrawler in a safe spot, and both of these players gonna look to take their naturals.
I mean, she wants to get something more done here. Scarlett's got a few Zerglings out. She's got the Ling Speed advantage, but that's the only advantage for Scarlett. Yeah, her hatchery's a couple of seconds faster, but she's down a few workers, and of course, Serral, I believe, already has 2 queens out, and he has the Spinecrawler as well as the Banelings, and this creates an impenetrable position. Scarlett's going to posture, she's going to poke, she's going to look for something, but Serral is not going to give her an angle. This is an unbreakable position, forcing both players to invest in the workers. And you can see Serral still up just 1 or 2 workers. He's managed to stabilize. He's going to force this into a longer game.
Yeah, like you said, with Serral having the higher worker count, he's going to feel a little bit better about this situation. I think he ended up getting a little bit supply block there for a moment as he gets another Overlord out. But as this game goes on, he's going to have that very slight edge, and Scarlett really got to make use of that Zergling speed upgrade you're talking about. Try and keep Serral all the way at home. That is the big thing that Scarlett can guarantee, is Serral's not easily going to be able to move out into the map for a long time.
Yeah, not at all. And I do wonder what Scarlett's transition will be. How do you take advantage of this? If she wants to go mutas, she needs to start that layer right now. But without the layer going, I think it's just going to be a Roach transition from the Canadian Zerg player. It's a very short map, so trying to get to Mutalisks is a little bit risky. And Roach is definitely the unit of choice. We do see that Roach Horn go down there. Now, there is Ling Speed on the way from Serral as well as an Evolution Chamber. I wouldn't think that's for Zergling upgrades. I think it's just going to be a fast +1 range. Serral absolutely loves doing that. And as his Ling Speed finishes, he's going to be able to put on some counter pressure and to secure his own 3rd hatchery. Now, the issue is if Scarlett doesn't have any Banelings at home, this counterattack could be somewhat deadly. Yeah, no safety Banelings at home. So she's kind of got to delay this push out. Seeing those Zerglings, she should realize now that his Ling Speed is about ready.
Oh, Banelings rolling around the corner. Remember, Serral didn't have full vision of that, so he's got to be careful. But Scarlett's Banelings taking a very slow waddle across the map. They really want to try and get back safely, but Serral going to try and do some pickoffs here. Sends 1 Zergling after those Banelings. Gonna actually get quite a bit of damage done to it, but Scarlett makes it back home safely with all of her Banelings still alive.
Only 1 queen here to anchor, but there's not a lot of Banelings coming in from Serral. Scarlett immediately tags the queen onto the Baneling, and she now has her own Roaches out. She's preparing for a Roach Baneling push here, and she is going to immediately start thrusting out onto that map. She wants to push across. The Roach Warren is almost ready for Serral, and he does have quite a few lava waiting, adding more gases, adding another Spine Crawler. This is a very scary push out of Scarlett, and she is committing hard to this. More Banelings, more Roaches, more Zerglings on the way. Serral's Roach production only just starting up, and the push is already knocking on his door.
And this is the time for Scarlett. Before that +1 weapons is able to finish up, Scarlett poking at the front. The Roach Warren's going to be extremely exposed over here. Couple of Banelings going to try and zone out Serral's own Lings. But if that Roach Warren goes down, that might give a little bit more longevity to Scarlett's push.
Oh, Serral cutting off reinforcements with his Zergling count. Very nicely done. Going to take a very good trade there. But the Roaches and Banelings crashing in here for Scarlett. The two Spine Crawlers do go down. But the positioning, the spread, the angle from Serral is incredible. And the replacement Roach Warren, which was placed down so early, is already up. Serral pushing Scarlett back out of his territory. A few more Zerglings come in. The reinforce is finally here. But that might just be too many Roaches and Zerglings for Serral.
Oh, the Queen's taking some damage there, but Serral, like you said, has just a few too many units. Scarlett gonna get pushed back once again, and she was heavily committed to making this damage happen. She is not that far down in workers right now, but it's about the +1 Roach upgrade. It's about the faster layer that's about to finish up here from Serral. All of these things have a better transition for Serral, and he is gonna be cleaning up even more of these lanes, morphing in some Ravagers, keeping those Roaches alive.
Of course, those Ravager cocoons with 5 armor. The Zerglings don't do a lot of damage. They only do half the damage a hit to those cocoons, and all of them survive. Serral being so efficient in the tail end of that fight, and both players bouncing onto a third hatchery. But Serral has the +1 range. He has the faster lair, and he has the worker advantage. Serral here with some textbook defense throughout this early game.
Scarlett gonna be between a rock and a hard spot right now as she tries to figure out how to regain an edge versus Serral in this situation. Her +1 weapons has finally begun. Her lair is getting close to finishing up. She's trying to drone up safely, but now she has to read the situation so unbelievably perfectly. She has to cut corners in order to try and find a way to come back in this game.
Yeah, and those Ravagers already starting to clear up the map vision for Serral, taking down the Overlords with the corrosive biles. And that, of course, pushes Scarlett's map vision back. Now, this is already a scary map because it's so small that a push can come out and just suddenly be at your base. But now you see here the vision trying to take that down. Does take down the Overlord. Scarlett just slightly too slow to pull the Overlord away. Of course, you can dodge those biles, but you've got to change directions almost instantly. There's very little room for error. And now Scarlett's vision is locked in her corner of the map. She knows she's up against a player with superior upgrades economy. And it's going to be hard for her to kind of gauge where can she go with her worker count. Does she have to be worried about a push? Can she build a lot of workers? She knows she's also behind in the upgrades, so she's stopped building workers for now. She's going to mass Roaches. Serral, meanwhile, playing a bit more of a mixed game. He's going to exert a little bit of pressure here, but that's all it is. Behind this, he's trying to get to that +2 upgrade, and he's droning up his third base, building an economy advantage.
I mean, once that +2 upgrade finishes there for Serral, he's going to have that upgrade advantage once again, and he's going to have Roach speed. That's going to be a really nice time for her to exert that kind of pressure on Scarlett. Scarlett, on the other hand, still just making more Roaches, trying to find a position to make a couple more drones here and there, but she's just trying to play sort of middle of the road. She has been able to get a pretty decently sized army, though.
Oh, these Ravagers finding another Overlord. This is so good from Serral. Up to 4 Overlord kills. Just finding damage everywhere. But Scarlett going to punish this. Serral was getting a little bit too ballsy, moving so far out of the map. Scarlett takes a few Roaches and pulls back. Now, keeping an eye on that worker count. Of course, Scarlett did squeeze a big round of workers in. And that was a very nice move from the Canadian Zerg. She's still behind in the upgrades, but she's stabilized in the economy and the army. And even though Serral has the faster 4th base, Scarlett inching her way back towards par in this game. She's getting closer and closer to even with the Finnish player.
Yeah, +2 missile tech starts up for Scarlett. Now, Serral has that upgrade advantage. This is the window for Serral where he's going to have a big lead over Scarlett in those engagements. But if Scarlett can survive till her +2 missile attack finishes, that upgrade advantage is going to be negated. It's going to be a while before +3 or anything comes out. Here we go. Roaches finding a little skirmish. Serral getting the better end of this so far.
Yeah, nice little just positioning here. And we've seen Serral do this yesterday as well. In all of his Zergverse series, all tournament long, he's always good at splitting up the Roaches. So if he gets this forward position, it's very hard for Scarlett to track where the Roaches are going to go. Pyro and Tunneling Claws on the way for Serral as well. But right now, Scarlett's army supply looking very healthy. It's just kind of scary because Scarlett is down in the upgrades, and so she's a bit afraid to pick a fight. but she might have to. Serral is just being so aggressive.
I really love how Scarlett is doing this, though. She's finding the perfect defensive positions where Serral's always going to be moving up a ramp or through a choke point. She's able to use those corrosive biles to zone Serral back and buy time again. As long as she's buying time, she's going to be able to even up those upgrades. And with those upgrades evened up, she's also getting up her own burrow and her own tunneling claws.
Yeah, she's been up in workers all game, but every single ZvZ series, this is something we see so rarely. And yet Serral does it every single time he's playing Zerg versus Zerg. He almost always starts with an upgrade advantage, and with that he turns it into an even bigger window where he is ahead. Now those tunneling claw roaches going out. Remember the vision that he cleared up with the Ravager piles beforehand was good, but Scarlett knew this was coming. She's got oversteers in that position. I don't even know what it's called, where the eyeball sticks out of their head. Of course, gives them a lot longer detection range. She's going to chase that force off. That's a lot of her roaches going out of position, though. She's got to be a little bit careful. Serral's going to move up and try and trap those roaches in the north side of the map.
Yeah, Serral looking for a little bit of an opportunity to pounce there, but Scarlett's going to be able to back up in time. You can just see the positional play coming out of both of these players. They know that in just a moment's time, one bad engagement, one bad trade can really signal an opportunity for their opponent to push in. Scarlett's been on the defensive for a while, but she has a lot of roaches here ready to defend. She's got a lot of roaches on the left-hand side also ready to defend, and Serral just cannot find an angle to push in from.
No, and Scarlett's actually been out-mining Serral a little bit throughout the last few minutes of this game. So she's starting to build up some nice banks. She's going to break down the rocks. She's desperate for a fourth base. She's saying, all right, I've let you take the aggressive position. It's time for me to fight you. She's pushing into the middle of the map right now. Corrosive biles being dodged by Scarlett, and both players zoning each other, and neither side able to commit to that fight. A big tunneling claw push coming in on the right-hand side, but he's on top of it. Serral is right on top of that army. Scarlett forced to unburrow and fight, but a good engagement there by Serral. Takes the better trade, forces Scarlett's counterattack forced out. She's going to push through the middle of the map, and Serral landing some very nice biles. A great defensive engagement from Serral.
Scarlett really going to be relying on the mass number of Ravagers that she has. She has 10 to the just 5 or 6 right now of Serral. But Serral has been finding some slightly better trades, and Scarlett has been on the defensive this entire game. She tried to get on the offensive that one moment in time on the north side, but it didn't really work out.
A flank coming in from the right-hand side, Ravi. They're sharking in from the right-hand side. Serral ready to pounce. Scarlett's other units aren't there yet. She's trying to get out of here, but Serral is adamant. He does not want to let those Ravagers escape. He's using the biles on the right-hand side, trying to damage Scarlett's reinforced. But what an engagement from the Finnish player. Collapses on half of Scarlett's army, catches her off guard. Her reinforcements are now coming in, but so many of her Ravagers have fallen.
Serral taking such a massive army supply lead at this point. He's doubling in army supply. He's continuing to push forward. Scarlett down to just 2 Ravagers in a roach with a couple of spies trying to buy some time, but Serral is going to pounce on this expansion, going to pounce on those remaining Ravagers, and continue to flood out more units across the map, looking to seize control of this game. Serral, I think that he's in a really, really good spot, and there are the roach reinforcements, possibly to close this out. There it is, GG. Serral taking the first game.
What an engagement there from Serral. It was such nice defense from Scarlett, and she definitely managed to equalize in the economy. Her upgrades were getting close to on even with Serral, but he just was so patient. He kept posturing over and again. And after she blocked so many waves of aggression, finally he realized half of her army was a little bit too far on the right-hand side, and he brought what looked like a counterattack back to bear on the flank of her army, trapped those Ravagers, and he managed to engineer it on a map where they both had equal army supply. He took an amazing engagement, crushed through, and finally was able to take that map. But definitely a big confidence booster for a lot of the Scarlett fans out there, just with how she pulled her way back into that game after being quite behind in the early game.
It's just amazing, though, when you watch Serral. It's not about the fact that every single attack that he does, every single poke or prod finds an opportunity or finds damage, but he's so good at doing those pokes and prods, being patient and not overcommitting, and then finally when he sees that one small little opportunity, he pounces on that, and boom, suddenly Scarlett, playing so well defensively for the entire course of that game, turns on its head. Serral found his opportunity, and he pushes in and wins the game. But all right, we get ready to hop into game number 2. It looks like it's going to be on Cerulean Fall, a pretty different map from that first map, Fracture. Remember that all of that game was off the back of Scarlett trying to open up with that early pool, that early gas guys with the Baneling as trying to get aggressive. Didn't quite work out. Scarlett was able to pull back in that game, but Cerulean Fall, much bigger map, might not see quite the same opening.
Yeah, it's going to be something where no doubt Scarlett, a player who is very aggressive in those openings, and she's a little bit wild. I like her opening up the series with that play, and considering Serral, he was very prepared with that pool first opening, 6 Zerglings being built blind. He was very ready for it, and yet Scarlett made a great game of it. So here on Cerulean Falls, I'd be expecting some more standard openings. Good chance of gasless play, players skipping the Zergling speed, going straight into Roach Tech, since there is a long rush distance and a narrow ramp that you can wall off. Of course, Mutalisks also become a lot stronger as the maps get larger as well. We're going to have to see what the players are going to bring out. A good start to the series for Serral so far, but Scarlett, she's been his kryptonite before. Let's see if she can do it again.
It's the big question right now. It's the rematch from WCS Valencia 2018, where Serral was able to narrowly take a 3-2 victory. But Scarlett showing a little bit of resilience. Will she be able to pull this series back to a 1-1 tied-up series, or will Serral continue to run away with the domination he's shown all year long? We're gonna be starting down here once again in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Top of the blue Zerg player from Team N, sitting up 1-0. He is Serral.
And up here in the top right-hand side, maybe channeling a little bit of that energy from the crowd. I did just see a full NA sign out there, and she's going to be playing it very aggressively. The red Zerg representing Canada and Talens Lions. Up here in the top right, she is Scarlett. Full NA indeed, Ravi. That is a very fast spawning pool, opening up very aggressively. No gas this time around, but it's going to be Zerglings in that production tab right from the get-go. Scarlett going to rally 6 Zerglings across, and no doubt trying to force a little bit of an overreaction here from Serral. So she's going to be sending the drone. Oh my God! It's really full NA. Oh my lord, I completely underestimated. That is crazy. She's going to build spine crawlers in his base.
This is absolutely nuts. The drones are going to lead the charge. The Overlord's going to see the drones moving across the map. Serral needs to micro this out perfectly in order to defend. Scarlett's, like you said, going to be building those spine crawlers on Serral's side of the map, using his own creep against him. And his spawning pool is going to be finishing up soon, but it's going to be the hatchery that went down first here for Serral.
He's hiding a drone behind his natural expansion. Serral wants to hide a spine crawler at his natural and evacuate the main. He's already planning to give up the main base, I believe. He's actually going to pull the drones away. He's going to try and get them away from those Zerglings and drones. And there we go. The 3 spines are in range of the spawning pool. But look at this play by Serral trying to evacuate. That spine crawler's being spotted. He knows he just needs to preserve hit points. He needs to wait for his own Zerglings to get out. The Zerglings working on the spine crawler. They are not able to get it down.
Scarlett chamber going down to cut down on the amount of surface area these lings.
Oh, the wraparound! Serral's lings can't get out of there.
Oh my God, and Scarlett's gonna be able to safely get up all those spines, even a 4th spine starting up from that evolution chamber. And Scarlett is gonna start working away at the spawning pool. She's continuing to do damage here, but Serral's gonna start mining from his natural.
The spine crawler is finished here on the natural.
She can't burrow it in time! Serral is blocking the spine crawlers from burrowing. He's continuing to try and deny Scarlett from her main army unit, the spine crawlers, but he's losing a lot of drones. The spine crawler is starting to burrow here. Scarlett finds another position for the 2nd spine, and Scarlett looks like she's starting to potentially break through.
She might be able to. That queen there doesn't have energy for the transfuse. No, the transfuse does not get to go down because the spine crawler is focused. Scarlett with 4 spine crawlers up on Serral's side of the map. His last few drones and Zerglings. He transfuses a drone. He tries to take it down. 1 spine falls. 1 in orange hit points remaining on the low ground. The last few drones of Serral being focused down.
God.
2 drones escape, and the spawning pool will fall. 1 spine still standing strong. Scarlett has 3 drones back at home mining up against the 2 of Serral, but she's still got a spine crawler in his base, and she's taken out his spawning pool. I think it's a small lead for Scarlett, but this is an absolutely insane spot.
And that's it, GG. Serral taps out. Scarlett ties up the series going full NA.
Channeling it. Wow.
This is absurd. This is insane, Pick. If you looked at Aligulac, if you looked at the hard stats, it said that Scarlett has a 1 in 10 chance of actually beating Serral. She had, I think, close to a 5% chance of taking a map off of Serral. But she is making this happen so far. She's tying up the series.
If you had asked me a week ago if that was the build to take down Serral, I would have laughed in your face, Fear Dragon.
Oh my God.
I did not expect Serral to go down to that. That's something, that is an old school build. That is something you see down in the dark depths of the ladder sometimes, but very rarely at a WCS match, let alone a quarterfinal. But Scarlett with that spectacular micro there. And, you know, it was a fascinating response from Serral trying to get that spine crawler up on the low ground. But it wasn't enough there in the end. Scarlett, great micro. She's really bringing the aggression. And we've talked a lot about Serral's laser focus, how he doesn't get thrown off. But I feel like Scarlett's going to start testing the limits if she keeps throwing out these aggressive plays. There is just so much wild strategy coming out of Scarlett that Serral might start second-guessing himself.
I mean, it's hard when you're in Serral's position. You can hear the crowd behind Scarlett. You can hear the chants. You can hear the energy in the room rooting for Scarlett and against Serral. It's hard in that position, but you know what? Serral is a king. He does not go down that easily. This king is yet to be toppled.
We are going to be going into map 3 in a moment. It's going to be Acid Plant. And it's a good start to the day so far for us fans of StarCraft, that's for sure. I love to see someone sneak in some maps off Serral, and this series so far has been nothing but exceptionally close. Every single game has been down to the wire. Let's hope that pattern continues. Just 2 more maps for either of these players to make it to the semifinals.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys are as ready as these players are to hop into game number 3. We're moving on to Acid Plant as we start down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. He started to bleed a little bit, but he is still your king. Bow down to him. He is Team Ence's Serral.
And up here in the top left-hand side of the map, in the red, hailing from Canada, representing Tollens Lions, the Red Zerg. Give it up for Scarlett.
Listen to those cheers. Oh my God. Scarlett, though, for once this game, this series, she's not going to open up with the early pool, but that is one of the scariest things about Scarlett. As we saw in the last game, she's not afraid to go for the early pools, to mix those in, and she's such an unpredictable player in her playstyle. I think that's one of her best qualities as a player.
You know, she used to be that macro beast back in the early heyday of Scarlett.
That was a long time ago, Pig.
I mean, there's been years of, I think it was first Bly, then of course No Regret whispering in her ears. She's learned to be a really diverse player. You know, she pulls out the crazy strategies.
Speaking of diversity.
I was going to talk about Mutalisks. I was going to talk about upgraded Zerglings on this big map. No, apparently it's 3 hatcheries before pool.
3 hatch, then gas, then spawning pool. The latest possible spawning pool you can reasonably get in one of these ZvZ games. And Serral's gonna come forward, is gonna see a normally timed hatchery, think, oh yeah, it's just a hatch gas pool maybe. It's gonna be a while. We'll see when he actually discovers what Scarlett just tried to pull out from under him.
You know, this is a fascinating dynamic that it creates. When you go 3 hatchery before pool, you can see that Scarlett's gas count. She's about 50 gas behind Serral. That means her Zergling speed ends up about 20, 30 seconds behind his. She's going to have more lava, more production. If she wins any early skirmish, she can drone her third, get infinitely ahead. If she wins any skirmish, she also could just build a lot of Zerglings and overwhelm Serral because she's got more production. But she's going to be basically saying, I'm on the defense, I'm on the back foot in the early stages of this. Serral is going to to spot that third hatchery in just a moment. She'll see it as the creep spreads out from that hatch, even though that Overlord stopped just short. And the big question is, how does Serral adapt to this? Does he just mass Zerglings? He sees the third hatchery now.
Oh.
And let's watch that production tab. Is Serral just going to play a normal game? Is he going to do light pressure and just try and macro it out? Or will he just hold down that Zergling key?
Well, he only just now started up his first 4 Zerglings. He does throw down a Baneling Nest alongside that third base, so question is yet to be answered. Scarlett getting up her own queens, probably going to get up some of her own Zerglings soon, I imagine, but well, Serral starting up a couple more drones, so it really does feel like he just wants to put on the light early ling pressure that a ZvZ oftentimes does see, and Scarlett should have her queens in time to defend.
You know, a lot of players will play overly defensive because they're afraid of the pressure when they've gone for this third hatchery, but Scarlett has had a healthy little worker lead so far in this game, and while Serral is about to overtake her in those workers, that is because she is committing to a ton of Zerglings right now. These drones on the third are a little bit exposed. Nice pickups there by Serral, but that drone does escape. So only one drone actually falling so far, and these Zerglings, they're going to look for one more pickup. They're scouting through the base, and they are going to do a full circuit. Did that Baneling Nest end up finishing for Scarlett?
For Scarlett,
I think
I'm
she
actually
canceled
not
that,
sure.
right? She canceled her Baneling Nest.
Serral got up his Baneling Nest, and yeah, Scarlett just going to go for the Roach Warren instead of the Baneling Nest, completely foregoing it. And since Serral is making a lot of lings and some Banelings right now, Pig, this does get a little bit interesting.
That hatch is going to take a lot of damage. I don't think it's going to go down just yet. Good splits on the Zerglings by Scarlett, not letting Serral get the connection that he wants. That hatchery is taking a lot of damage, but she's got to pull back now. Her Roach Warren is almost finished, and this is a very scary Lingbane counterattack. Scarlett being forced into 24 more Zerglings. She's got to keep this Lingbane away from her side of the map because she does not have Baneling tech yet. Of course, she can explode into a very powerful attack, but the Lingbane for Serral looking to counter pressure. He's going into his own Roach tech, his own evolution chamber behind this, but for now, these Banelings are going to create a problem for Scarlett. The Zerglings on the top right might run into these Banelings.
Pretty big loss there for Scarlett. She does take care of the second Baneling as well, at least, and the Roaches are on the way, but Serral has a lot of lings here, being very aggressive on this side of the map. Scarlett has the queens to help defend. One of them gets picked off almost immediately, but there are the Roaches. Second queens ends up falling, but Scarlett is going to be able to hold on and go for a counterattack. This is a lot of lings on a very low health hatchery.
Yeah, the Banelings are there though. Serral with some very good play. Scarlett pulling back at the last second. Her Zerglings trying to get damage on that hatch. She wants to snipe off this hatchery. Her Roaches, her Lings are flooding across the map right now. The advantage for Serral lies in the Baneling tech, but he's behind on the Roaches, and Scarlett's force is meandering its way across this map. A long line of Roaches, a column getting over there. The Banelings clean up her Zerglings. She wants to just pedal to the metal on this aggression. Non-stop Zerglings in production. Serral trying to spine up his natural and third base. He wants to try and hang on.
Those Lings are going to help out Serral so much in this fight, though. If they can get in on top of those Roaches, they're going to soak up so many hits, because remember, there's no upgrades for either side. These Roaches are going to take 3 hits to kill off these Zerglings. So Serral going to be able to utilize those to tank a lot of damage. Scarlett runs around with a couple Lings, gets some more scouting information, and might try and go in for another hatch snipe soon, but the couple of Banelings there ready and waiting for Scarlett.
Yeah, she's been looking for this angle, and that hatchery is still so damaged. It may go down later on, but for now, Scarlett has said, I just see you've got the Roach count. I see you've got the spines. I can't push in there. And Scarlett, of course, still did force a big response, and she's just gone into drone count behind that. She's still got a very big army out. She's still got more Lings on the map. Whilst her upgrades are slightly behind Serral's, she maintains a good position and is going to take an exceptionally fast 4th hatchery over on the left-hand side.
And she's had, oh wow, really scary moment there. She didn't have the high ground vision, but she's had this slight little drone lead for the past couple of minutes. Her lair going up a good bit faster. You can see that income favoring Scarlett. You can see her supply rising just a little bit faster, adding on 10 more drones, throwing up the Spire. She might end up losing a few drones here to the Ling counterattack, but that Spire might very well catch Serral very off guard.
Yeah, that Spire going down is going to be a nice surprise there. Scarlett bringing that one out This Lingbane skirmishes on the right-hand side have just been so well executed by Serral. He constantly skirmishes with Scarlett's slings and then tries to bait her back into his banelings that are always just a little bit further back, and this is a big drain on her APM. So I'm really impressed by how Scarlett has maintained her ability to multitask and macro up during this. She maintains that worker lead, and right now we've got an Overseer coming in. It wants to scout that Spire. That Queen there is not going to be able to stop it, and that's a very important scout. Serral, always so good at keeping tabs on what his opponent's up to. Let's see what the response is. He's already got 3 bases of workers. He does drop a Hydralisk den, so I think Serral's just going to be going for that Roach Hydra Lurker play. Of course, Hydras to deal with the Mutas, and Lurkers to deal with any potential cheeky banelings.
All right, let's see how things go. Scarlett throwing down her baneling nest as we end up seeing Serral start to move a bit further across the map. He's poised in a more aggressive position where Scarlett is very pulled back, knowing she's waiting for some of those mutas to really seize that map control until Serral can get out things like those Hydras.
That is a lot of overlords on the map from Scarlett. She's going to see everything going on this map. Nice little harassment from Serral, but the mutas are now on the way, and that baneling tech is fascinating. Especially because the Overseer could come back in and scout it, and if you scout that as Serral, it's a big tell, because banelings are not long-term tech. Banelings are something which is quite all-in this matchup. You're basically trying to get your banelings, and the Overseer actually did just see the baneling nest, by the way, in the main base. So those banelings are looking to connect with the Hydras, which enables your mutas to kind of clear up everything that's left on the ground. But Serral's got a heads up on this, and he immediately queues up a Lurker Den. Spore Crawlers everywhere. Scarlett is going to take down a few workers.
Okay. Not bad. Maintaining a 10-worker lead so far. Serral going to try and redrone a little bit as that Lurker Den gets closer and closer to finishing up. Adding on a couple of the Ravagers, he can finally start taking out a lot of these Overlords.
Yeah.
As Scarlett maybe being a little too over-eager with 1, 2, 3, 4 are going to go down. Possibly more, as Scarlett's army still not even that close yet.
A little bit wasteful there from Scarlett. Her mutas aren't going to go in and threaten those Hydras. She's got a lot of Roaches, but she's actually swapping into almost pure Lingbane muta at this point. Melee upgrades even are on the way right now. These Mutalisks threatening around the map. She wants to get in there before the Lurkers are ready. Her baneling speed is almost done, but so is the Lurker Den. Overseers continuing to scout here for Serral, and we've got that Lurker Den so close to finished. The banelings are morphing, dozens of them morphing in the middle of the map, and we're just gonna have a very quick pause here.
Yeah, seeing a little bit of a delay there, but Scarlett doing a really, really good job. It looks like we may be okay with the lag or the latency now, but game will get started in just a moment's time. Thankfully, it wasn't during an engagement or anything, so it seems like both the players are okay. We're getting ready to start up once again. 3, 2, 1, go. We're back in the game.
All right, we'll be back in here. These Mutalisks here are coming in. Now remember, there's a massive banelings in the middle of the map. The Roaches, the Hydras, the Ravagers are going to start to come forwards. Here we go, these banelings. They've got the baneling speed. The Lurkers aren't ready. Scarlett's going to go for it. She needs to get those banelings and those Mutalisks onto the Hydras, but the Roaches creating a very powerful barrier. The banelings cashing into the Roaches. They are getting a few decent connections, but it is not particularly efficient. Serral, he's got some good defense on the left-hand side, but I think there might just be enough for Roaches. The Mutalisks still stand strong. There's no anti-air left on the map.
And Scarlett's Lings continue to flood forward. A handful of Roaches doing a lot of damage to Scarlett's economy, but Scarlett is very much equalizing that damage with her own main force. The Muta's in high enough count to take out all the Hydras. Scarlett is climbing in supply right now, and she looks like she may be poaching in position to potentially slit the throat of Serral in game number 3.
Yeah, this was such a well-timed attack just before the Lurkers came in. And whilst those Roaches of Serral are still creating a problem, Scarlett's finally getting on top of that. Her own Roaches are going to come back. She's actually down in workers right now, but she's sniping off the 4th hatchery. She's done some great damage. She's got 5 bases behind it, and she's re-droning to secure the advantage off the back of this push. A fantastic timing attack. And behind it, rather than overcommitting to the Hydras, to the banelings and the Mutalisks, she's swapping back into pure Roach Ravager. 18 Ravagers in the production tab. She is just gonna keep on attacking Serral here.
And this is one of those big advantages of those Mutas, Pig, is that she can keep an eye on everything Serral's doing. She can move around to those Mutas, pick off Overseers, try and shut down his vision, while at the same time getting a continued scout on his army, seeing what he's making his composition, kind of catering her own toward it.
Very nice choices here by Scarlett. She's going to be able to use these corrosive piles to annihilate the low number of lurkers. Those lurkers just falling instantly. There's not enough roaches and hydras on the ground. Scarlett's got her mutas taking out the new fourth base in the top side. That goes down. The Ravagers taking a very good fight down here. They don't have a lot of buffer left though, and these are very expensive units, but Baneling's hitting the mineral line at the same time. Scarlett's just going to back off for a moment, wait for some reinforcements, and Serral once again finds his way into the mineral line.
Serral definitely not giving up in this game as he continues to find more and more of that damage. Scarlett, without the Overseer here, having a hard time pinpointing some of those lurkers that keep reburrowing. And it looks like Scarlett may be starting to lose a few too many of... Oh my god, is he hold position?
Oh, that is a misclick from Scarlett there, accidentally pathing those Ravagers through the enemy lurkers. But on the plus side, she's sniping drones off on the gases. She's cleaned up this counterattack. She's still up 15 workers, and more importantly, 2 bases. The Mutalisks even finding a few stray hydras. Every unit that goes down for Serral is irreplaceable. But Scarlett, look at this, just doing so much with all these different squads of units. The Banelings have been finding the hydras, and then the workers, the Ravagers have been pushing in, and she's swapping back into the Mutalisks, realizing Serral does not have the hydra count to contest that.
Continuing to climb in supply, Scarlett is, but a lot of her drones just transfer over to the left-hand base, and the handful of roaches actually going to be retreating back. Serral, a little bit preoccupied with the multi-pronged harassment coming out from Scarlett, it seems.
Yeah, a little bit of a missed opportunity to do some more economic damage. Scarlett is in this position where she is so far ahead economically, but Serral keeps on disrupting that economy and buying himself a little bit more time. Funnily enough, did that evolution chamber go down? Her +2 upgrade.
Yeah, she was researching +2, but she either canceled it or it got killed off by those roach counterattacks.
Wow, she actually canceled it to get more Mutalisks, I think, and Ravagers. Well, she's really playing a momentum-focused style right now.
4 more mutas in production. The Lings with the +1 melee also going to be coming out in larger numbers as well. Now, those Lings are still going to get 2-shot by the roaches and Ravagers.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Very nice.
Is going to end up finding a handful of those roaches that were looking to go for that counterattack. Serral getting shut down. Scarlett is just not giving him an opportunity to come back in this game.
She's been playing a wild, aggressive, fast-paced style all series long, and it's worked once more. They're sneaky swap into the Mutalisk into a huge Baneling timing attack. Scarlett takes the 2-1 lead over Serral. She's only 1 map away from going through to the semi-finals.
Oh my god, Pig. Everyone was looking toward her at Valencia, getting so close to taking down this behemoth, this monster of 2018 that is Serral. And this time, she's sitting up 2-1. So close. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna give both these players a moment to breathe as we go to a short break and get ready to hop into game number 4 after a quick commercial break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the WCS round of 8 here at WCS Montreal. We're getting ready to hop into game number 4 with Scarlett, the Canadian hometown hero, leading up 2-1 in this best of 5. About to move on to the semifinals, unless that man there has something to say about that.
And I guarantee you he does, Fear Dragon. This is not a series either player is going to give up easily. It is your path to the semis, your path to the finals, your path to another championship. And we're going to find out who takes it in the next couple of maps as we go into Lost and Found. Down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, in the blue, the Finnish player representing NC Esports, the 3-times WCS champion of 2018, looking for his 4th. He is Serral.
And spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, sitting up 2-1, representing Toland's Lions, the Queen of Blades, she is Scarlett!
And this is an interesting point in the series. She's been up 2-1 versus Serral before, 2 times this year. One time she sealed the deal 3-1, the other one she let it slip. To quote her own words, she actually said, you know, she should have won 3-1 that last time they played. She said herself she felt like it was a mistake she shouldn't have made, and she doesn't want it to happen again. But it's interesting as well strategically, because at this point in the series, what have we seen from Scarlett so far, Fear Dragon? It's been crazy aggression after crazy greed in that last game. And at a certain point, you're going to run out of these curveballs. How many of these wild builds can you have? It seems like maybe here on this map, Scarlett goes back to some more standard play.
Yeah, you know, there were some curveballs in that last game with the Mutus play and getting out a handful of those. But remember, even that got scouted fairly early on. So I actually want to say that that last game felt like Scarlett kind of just won the macro game. There was
the 3-hatch at the start.
There actually, you know what? I will give you credit on that one. There was a 3-hatch. Scarlett has been playing very, very tricky this series, but
no, she's going to keep it up, I guess.
Okay.
All right, I love it. You know, I love it. Stick to your guns. And the thing is, Serral is playing the most stock standard Zerg versus Zerg. He's trying to play defensively, and I love this fast evolution chamber. This is going to be the fastest possible carapace upgrade you can get. And that leads into some super powerful Zergling timings and some very powerful Ravager Zergling timing attacks as well. Of course, you delay your Zergling speed for this. Your 3rd base gets delayed by a few seconds as well, but it definitely gives you some real strength in the, I guess, the later stages of the early game is the real period where this shines.
Yeah, this does see a little bit of a fall off, though. That +1 carapace not quite as valuable as, say, a ranged upgrade as you go further on into the game, past that mid game. But this is where Scarlett is going to be able to maybe secure an advantage in the earlier stages. Now we see Serral getting up his 3rd base, getting up a Baneling nest, looking like he wants to, again, exactly as you said, play typical ZvZ. But he's going to move that Overlord over to the 3rd base and see, okay, you haven't quite gone for as early of a 3rd just yet. Is there going to be an Evo Chamber and a Roach Warren at the front? Are you going to go for a +1 Roach attack? What are you up to, Scarlett?
I mean, that Overlord snipe was already really huge there. That's actually massive. Serral taking a supply block so early does get this other Overlord out of dodge. So very nice way for Scarlett to open. Of course, the Zerglings.
Oh my God.
You can't hide anything from this guy. Serral always sees everything. The Zergling comes in, sees that evolution chamber wobbling, and a lot of Zerglings starting up on both sides. Serral wanting to be ready to deal with this. He's starting his own evolution chamber as well. I wonder if he might think there's a window to put pressure on before her upgrades are ready. Will he go across the map, or will he just use the Lingbane defensively?
Now, in the Lingbane Wars, the big aspect of Scarlett's Lings having the +1 carapace upgrade means that her Zerglings will survive a Baneling hit with 1 hit point left over. That means they can add in a little bit. Doesn't seem like a 1 Zergling hit point or 1 hit point Zergling will do a whole lot, but it still does damage just like any other Zergling. It's going to make a huge impact in these trades if she can make use of it.
These Zerglings now coming in. Ling speed finally kicks in for Scarlett. And with the amount of Lingbane she sees from Serral, I guarantee you she does not feel a need to get damage done. She's going to probe for it, see if she finds an opening. but she's not going to overcommit. Just one drone goes down on the third. She snatches it, darts out, and says, okay, I'll take any freebies I can get, but oh, I'm not going to force the issue.
Well, don't worry, that's what the +1 carapace is for.
Yeah, not particularly ideal. She'll have to wait a while to regenerate those Zerglings, though. It's not as bad as it would have been otherwise. 2 drone kills as well. And behind this, she's got a very quick lair. She's going into +1 range, but oh my lord, 2 sneaky Banelings have gone into the corner of her main.
Oh,
that
boy.
could turn this game upside down very quickly. He's going to wait till he distracts her.
Yeah, those Banelings are ready and waiting, fully morphed in. And Scarlett, is she going to be able to react in time? She's not reacting in time. She starts blowing the drones, but 6 of them end up falling. A very big blow this early on in the game.
A small worker lead, suddenly a huge worker lead for Serral. He's up 47 to 35. There's a big roach attack coming across the map, but I'm not really sure if it's that scary. There's 13 roaches in production. And remember that Serral has the Banelings, which are going to stop the Zerglings from rushing in and overwhelming. Even though she's got the better upgrades, it's going to be hard for her to get too much done here. Serral, very well prepared in this game.
Serral, there are those roaches popping on out. The Lings for Scarlett trying to find an angle to sneak off and kill off a potential queen there, but she's not able to make a whole lot happen thus far with these roaches. She's got a few more Lings supporting them. Wow, the Zerglings actually do manage to kill off one of the queens and starting to work away at some of the drones, but here we go. Banelings coming on forward, looking for those Ling connections. All the Banelings are gone, and these Lings are going to be able to take a lot of damage to the roaches.
Her +1 is going to finish in just 2 seconds, and that is going to make these roaches of Scarlett way more effective. The focus fire on those Banelings was incredible. Her Zergling reinforces here. The Queens of Serral, though, adding some very valuable damage to this fight. The micro on both sides is on point, but it seems like Serral just barely withstands this assault. Scarlett is down to 12 workers. Yeah, she's got better upgrades right now, but that's not going to last too much longer. You know, her economy just is way lower. She's on mostly Zerglings.
She's has to do this. She has to get damage done here and now. There is no turning back. Her Lings go in on top of these little roaches, on top of the queens, but a lot of them are getting picked off, and Serral looks like he's pushing Scarlett further and further back across the Bio mainland, but Scarlett, she's caught up in drones. Was it enough, Pig?
It might have been. I mean, that last fight definitely didn't go her way. Would have been a little bit better to keep those Zerglings alive, threatening. She ended up going in with the Lings and damaging a lot of Serral's roaches, but very few of them actually fell. So they're going to slowly regenerate now. But behind it, Scarlett's upgrade lead is the big thing she's got going for her. She's tied up the worker count. Right now, Serral's army is scarier in that he's got a bigger roach count. The problem for Serral is his lair was so late. It's still not finished. So Scarlett's going to be at +2 range. She's going to get roach speed, and that's going to give her just so much more strong roaches in the next big fight. This is going to allow Scarlett to build off the back of that aggression. She might even be able to get a 4th base up. I actually am starting to love her position with that 2-1 upgrade advantage.
Scarlett, such a smart player, and this is one of the things that she's really abused in the past couple of years, is how intelligent she's able to play in these later game, mid-game, early game situations. We've seen the mix-ups she's thrown out, and she's been able to use that intelligence to try and find these little ways to sneak in advantages and come back in games where she does things like loses 6 workers early on to 2 Banelings.
And you know what? I think she's just continuing to follow the same decisive trend we've seen from her all day today. It's just about continuing to throw the waves of aggression at your opponent. Serral trying to react, trying to respond, but Scarlett is being so decisive, and she's coming out with one more huge assault. +2 range is finished. She's got a 2 upgrade advantage. She's got a small army advantage as well, and she wants to strike at this 4th base. Serral, he knows he's outnumbered.
He's out positioned right now, as well as that 4th base is not going to have much of a chance to survive here. It's going to get instantly taken out, canceled, but he's got a good position to defend that 3rd base. Scarlett's going to go into a massive concave. The queens are going to be here to defend as well. Serral is not going to give up his crown that easily.
No, he's looking to hang on. I like the give up on the 4th base as well. I think this was an intelligent decision by Serral. He's setting up a very nice concave. Scarlett's going to try to push in, but she realizes that angle is not conducive to winning the game. This is just such a nice setup from Serral. She wants to poke in and out, but Serral, each time he's so good at resetting that position, and he's collapsing on her, doing some fantastic damage. A great hold by Serral.
Serral keeps finding such good trades in those engagements, and Scarlett is forced to back back up, even with the superior upgrades. And again, this is going to be one of those situations where after you get a +2 missile attacks, there's not really a whole lot of room to go further with your upgrades. So Scarlett kind of at a standstill there, and Serral is gradually going to start catching up and throws down a Spire as well.
That is such a late Spire from Serral up against a Hydroden. And upon seeing that, he might not be too keen on committing to the Mutalisks. Yeah, the Overseer sees the Hydroden. He goes back, checks that it does indeed finish, and Tunneling Claws and Burrow starting up for Serral. These are the upgrades we've seen him win so many Zerg vs. Zerg games with. If he manages to make it into your Mineral Lions, it is almost impossible to shut those roaches down.
I mean, he is so good with those burrowed roaches, Pig. And you know what? Even on Fracture, it looked like he was going to be able to maybe get something done. Scarlett was so on point with the defense. But this map, Lost and Found, has, I feel, a lot more angles. You can move in with those burrowed roaches, a lot more positions. You can try and find that damage.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a much harder defense here for Scarlett.
Yeah, definitely not as contained as it was on Fracture earlier. And even there, that was, of course, where Serral picked up this one win. He's now coming out with his big Roach army, and this is something you see Serral do time and again. Whenever he wants to start burrowing those roaches, he wants to get on your side of the map first, create some threat, and then the moment he's out of vision of your Overseer or Overlord, he's just gonna burrow 10, 15 roaches, split them into your bases, and if you don't see it coming, you can just get knocked out of the game right there.
Lurker Den getting close to finishing here for Scarlett. She moves in with a few lings. The Baneling does soak up a hit there on some of those lings, but Scarlett still going to continue with a bit of that attack. A handful of roaches here, not going to be enough. Serral is fully prepared on that angle. Scarlett going to have to deal with these burrowed roaches, though, over at her fourth at the same time that the main engage is getting forced out. Scarlett has a handful of these Hydras there, and that might be some extra DPS Serral's unprepared for, but oh, these burrowed roaches, they get caught by Scarlett.
Yeah, they are kind of slipping by at the same time. Serral creating a lot of threat at the front. He wants to not only win the fight here, but sneak roaches into the Mineral Lines at the same time.
Roaches.
That's a ton of roaches. The Hydras are getting taken down by the Corrosive Bile. Scarlett's having a tough time splitting her units into all the positions where they're needed. The Corrosive Bile's going to take out the Constructing Roach Eggs. Very nice play here by Serral. Pushing forward is Scarlett. She's trying to repel the attack, but the Micro is too good. The Ravagers using the Corrosive Bile to cover their retreat.
And Serral microing on both fronts, keeping the burrowed roaches alive in the main base at the same time that he was retreating with his roaches on the other side. These roaches are going to lose some of their hit points, but they actually managed to stay alive. Serral is just starting to out-multitask Scarlett, and the Ravagers that fully morph in, immediately taking a couple Corrosive Biles.
Here we go. This is it. A big Roach Ravager push. The Roaches and Ravagers of Scarlett come forward, but yet again, she's losing workers behind it. In her natural expansion, Roaches have unburrowed, and this fight, it started to look okay, but these fighting retreats from Serral, he lands the Corrosive Biles by distracting his opponent. It's just such a good way of playing Zerg vs. Zerg, and whenever his opponent withdraws, he just Tunneling Claws those roaches into a new base, creates more and more problems for his opponent, and that is the secret to his success here. The Tunneling Claw master, Serral, has engineered a very, very clear advantage in this game.
This is unreal. Serral able to micro at the front, in the back, everywhere. Scarlett just cannot keep up anymore. She's down 100 supply at this point, only some of which is workers and a lot of which is army supply. Serral is looking so strong in this game, and I just don't see a world in which Scarlett can pull this back anymore, Pig.
Oh, stops the lurkers just before they finish, and Serral ties it up 2-2.
Magnificent play from our legendary God King Serral. He is not going to go down that easily. He ties it up 2-2, like you said, and brings it to that game 5, that ace match. Are we going to see a repeat of WCS Valencia where Scarlett gets knocked down 3-2, or will she be able to turn the tides this time at her home turf?
Yeah, I mean, the Night King can't go down that easy. He's not going to fall 3-1 today. He's going to tie it up, take it towards our final match, and it is going to be Blue Shift, the Focus Master, Serral, not getting thrown off despite all of the crazy openings that Scarlett has thrown at him. She has changed it up every single game, just trying to find success within the strategic differentiations. It's been working a lot, but Serral has now tied it up, and going into the final game, it's a small map, it's a very aggressively oriented map, and both players deep in thought about how they're going to approach this one.
I mean, especially, I can imagine that Scarlett, of course, has all of those tricks up her sleeve still available, still at her disposal. But Serral's the one that also is probably thinking hard, saying, what is my opponent going to do? She's been absolutely nuts this year. She's gone 3 halves before pool. She's gone for a Ling Bailing all in. She's gone for a 12 pool drone pull. She's gone for the standard macro game. Anything is really possible, and he has got to be able to respond in kind, either through hyper standard play that's just unbelievably solid, or he's got to be able to at least try and think about how can I maybe take the aggression of Scarlett.
Yeah, it's a really, really intense series of calculations that are going through these players' minds right now, but especially on this small map. I think Scarlett definitely has a little bit of a mental edge there in terms of the fear she's instilled in Serral at this point. He knows she could do those very aggressive plays, and it's hard to figure out exactly what you want to do. I would imagine Serral's going to default towards that 17 pool that he opened with on Fracture earlier today and really just play it exceptionally safe. But we're going to have to see what the players have in store. The map is loading. We've just launched into Blue Shift. Let's see how this series finalizes.
All right, here we are. We're going to be starting, of course, up here in the top right-hand corner of the map. It's currently sitting at a tied-up series 2-2, a very rare situation for this man. From Team Ents Esports, it is Serral.
And down here in the bottom left-hand side of Blue Shift, the red Zerg. She's a fiery player, and she is playing with that fire today. She wants to make it through to the semifinals in front of her hometown audience. Down here in the bottom left-hand side, in the red, the Zerg player. She is Scarlett.
She was the last player from the WCS circuit, the last non-Korean to beat Serral in a best-of-3 or higher way back at IEM Pyeongchang. And she's close. She's been close before about doing it again at WCS Valencia, but this time she doesn't want to let it slip through her fingers again. Both these players are going to be opening up with pretty much identical openings, very, very standard play. We're going to be seeing at least a normal early game from these players.
Absolutely. You know, I wouldn't mind the same build as we saw in the last game from Scarlett, as it is just so powerful in these short rush distance maps. Just rewinding that last game, Scarlett worked it into a pretty good position. If that Overseer was morphed just a few seconds earlier, she could have stopped those roaches cracking into her base, and the fight on the front would have looked very different as a result. If those two Banelings didn't sneak into the corner of her main, it would have looked completely different. She would have had so much more economy all game. It's always these little things that add up in a game of StarCraft, and both players are going to be trying to find those mistakes from their opponent here, and they're going to be really looking to lock it down and make sure they don't make those mistakes in the final game.
And that has always been the scariest thing about Serral, Pig, is that he is not the player that does the crazy, crazy flashy plays all the time and takes leads. It's all of the small things that he does perfectly in all the different matchups, whether it be his creep spread, his larva injects, the small little bits of extra micro he does with his burrowed roaches. Everything is just adds up, and Serral accumulates those small little advantages and finds ways back into games.
Yeah, he never tunnel visions on anything. It's always just realizing that Zerg is the sum of the whole. It's what you can do with all those little pieces, and now you can combine them. There's a Baneling Nest on the way here for Serral, slightly faster. Scarlett opening up with the most standard opening that she's shown all day today. It is just a fast third base. Now, she has got an early third queen, which of course does present the opportunity to push those overlords nice and far back, but Serral not going to give up an overlord snipe this time. He's pulled his overlords very far back, and both players just kind of posturing at the front there of Serral's base. Very similar drone counts on either side, and no doubt we're going to see some Ling Bane skirmishes in the next minute.
All right. Got a few of these Lings poking forward here from Scarlett, and also trying to just get in a nice position where the queens cannot move forward and maybe start sniping off an overlord or something. Serral moves forward with his own Ling and scouts out the third base and makes his way over to the natural. Sees not a whole lot. Sees the Baneling Nest though, and that is a pretty big reveal. Pretty important tell to say, okay, you're not going to be skipping too much of this.
That's a few more Zerglings for Serral right now, chasing Scarlett back to her side of the map. She is opting to play as the defender here, with just a couple less Zerglings. She's now queuing 10 more up, as well as a few defensive Banelings. But this is going to allow Serral to get a queen. Oh, he's going to get that queen snipe. Punished is Scarlett for just a slight bit of inattention with that delayed Baneling morph. And already, Serral takes a nice little edge. He goes into that typical fast evolution chamber. He wants to get the fast range upgrades. These are the sort of games that we've seen Serral look unstoppable in. I feel like Scarlett has got to do something. She can't just play a completely straightforward game here against Serral unless she is exceptionally confident.
She's done really, really well with a lot of those kind of standard games versus Serral. She's really put up a much better fight than a lot of other players would ever be able to dream of putting up versus Serral. But he still seems to find these small little advantages. And right now, he's playing out of his mind good. Roach Warren on the way for Scarlett. Lair finishing up for Serral with his own Roach Warren starting up behind it.
Yeah, I mean, the late layer is all the information that Serral needs to know that it's not a fast Mutalisk play, even though she's done a great job of hiding her Evolution Chamber and Roach Warren to try and spread a little bit of disinformation. Serral hasn't confirmed that those are down, so that, of course, if you don't see the Evo Chamber, you are going to be a little bit more worried about pushes potentially coming across the map as well, and Scarlett being quite greedy. She has got a worker lead throughout this building up phase. She's going right up to 5 gases, 3 base mineral saturation. And from there, it's going to be pretty much non-stop Roach production for a while. Scarlett just steaming her way forwards into the macro game.
Another lane coming forward. Serral, this guy just cannot be stopped with his scouting information. He almost always seems to be able to find out a lot of information. He doesn't quite see the Roach Warren in the Evolution Chamber yet again. But around this time, it looks like those upgrades are getting about halfway finished, and Serral's gonna finish his a good bit earlier on. We'll see what he does with it, if he's gonna look to try and move out or anything, but I don't think he has the roaches to do so just yet, so.
Nice defense here by Scarlett. She's using her Banelings very well to zone out the superior Zergling count. And as her Roaches start to enter the field, that's going to make things a little bit easier for the Canadian Zerg players. She's got the very fast 4th up. And of course, she's got an 8-worker lead with that very, very greedy, unafraid droning that she did. The Spire goes down behind it. She's going to be looking for that Mutalisk tech switch. I wonder if we'll see it like Acid Plant. Remember, it was Mutas into Speed Banes in that particular game, and it worked out splendidly there.
Oh, but Serral is doing nothing but pumping out more Roaches, not immediately going for that +2 missile attack as he really just wants to get up a massive army. Scarlett pushing across the map with a bit of lower army supply, and Serral also going to have a defender's advantage. This, if she overcommits here, if she pushes a little too far, it's going to be a very dangerous spot, but I think she just wanted to poke and kind of keep Serral on the defensive for a moment.
It's a good retreat, but I mean, this is still a very scary attack. As you said, Fear Dragon, no +2 on the way. A mass of Roaches coming forwards. Serral has decided in Game 5, it is time to be very decisive, and the 2-pronged Roach Assault begins. Scarlett's 4th base under assault. She's going to go to defend the 3rd. That Roach speed just being 20 seconds slower, and she loses a base for it. Very nice push here from Serral.
Very, very big pick off there for Serral. Scarlett does manage to keep all of her drones intact. She's able to push back some of those overlords, and then finally that Spire is finished up. She has the ability to start up some of those mutas, and there we end up seeing just a few being started up. The mutas have a lot of work they need to do to make up for that last 4th.
That's the power of this push from Serral. He forced her to spend all of her gas on more Roaches and Ravages. If she could build 7 or 8 Mutalisks all at once, and then add the Roaches and Ravages later, it would be a much smoother build-up. Oh, she's looking for a bit of a surround, a bit of a mispathing though. Then 6 Roaches through there. 3 or 4 of those are going to go down. In the north side, I think that's a decent fight for both sides. But Serral's supply count looking very healthy. Focuses down her 1 Ravager there as well. But the Mutalisks, they are going to be a little bit of a surprise factor here. But Scarlett's Roach count much lower, and the 2-pronged assault continues.
Those Mutalisks can focus fire down some of those Ravagers, but not before they kill off the 4th base again. A second time the cancel is forced out. Scarlett does keep the drone alive, and the Mutalisks doing their best to try try and push Serral back, but Serral says, no, I can fight this because I've got roaches on the north side as well.
Oh, that is a lot of roaches coming in from Serral on both sides. This fight here is looking like it'll eventually go decently for Scarlett.
In the center.
But there's so many roaches on the north, so many coming through the center, and the drones are exposed. The work is starting to fall here for Scarlett, trying to evacuate from the third base. She's trying to salvage this situation, but the overwhelming numbers from Serral are crashing through.
Serral moves in from every single angle, is about to kill another one of these hatcheries. He's not focused firing it down. Scarlett with the Mutalisk is not able to save it in time. The drones have fallen. More drones are falling in the main base. Scarlett is put into a very desperate situation. She still has the Mutalisk. They've been growing in numbers, but Serral has 4 bases. Serral has a few queens back at home, and I think most importantly, Serral has Hydras being produced.
Yeah, you know, this Mutalisk tech is such a good choice if you can get it out. But as we said, the Mutalisk didn't get to come out in that big pack. They were delayed, and this map is just so small. Serral's very decisive roach push, not a fancy strategy. It's not very special, but it got the job done. It did massive damage. Scarlett's desperate to do some counterattacks, but I don't know if she has enough mutas to deal with the Hydras. She's going to try and bait these roaches out into the open where her Mutalisks can add a bit of strength to that. She's rebuilding the third and the fourth, adding +2 range and trying to recover her drone count. So Scarlett's not going to go for an all-in counter. She's going to rebuild her economy and try to drag her way back into this game.
But there is this massive period of time where she's not mining from a third or fourth base that Serral is mining from. The income spiking up is an understatement in this situation. Serral is going to continue to get further and further ahead for the next minute or two before Scarlett finally finishes up those bases and able to start mining again. And right around that time that those bases finish up, that is when Serral is going to have his perfect opportunity to pounce.
Yeah, these mutas here do clean up a little roach counterattack. The third and fourth have finished rebuilding. A very high Ravager count is out for Scarlett. There's a big window where she is behind on upgrades, and of course those Hydras, they might not have the corrosive bile ability, but Hydras have so much raw damage output. As long as they have enough roaches in front of them protecting them, they are one of the best units in the mid-game of Zerg versus Zerg.
Oh, Scarlett losing a few of those mutas already, and those are so nice for being able to keep an eye on Serral's army, and even just picking off some of the Ravagers, finding a few stray pieces of units that she can try and get some sort of evened up advantage with. But some more roaches coming forward. Scarlett is just unprepared for them.
Yeah, this is Serral in a nutshell, just non-stop counterattacks poking in from every side. The upgrades are going to equalize soon, but those Mutalisks doing some damage on the other side of the map. They do come in and snipe a few of these workers, and this is why the mutas are just so useful. They can always find little bits of value over a longer game, and that is what Scarlett wants, a longer game right now. She's got a lot of roaches, a lot of Ravagers, but there is a 20 army supply lead, and remember, the Hydras are the big threat. The Mutalisks will not help in the frontal fight.
These corrosive biles need to be unbelievably on point here for Scarlett. That is the main advantage she has right now. Those corrosive biles, those Ravagers.
17 Ravagers, another 8 just walk into the fight here. I don't think Serral can break through this angle, but what can he do? He can create a problem, and that's what he's all about. He just creates threat, and in the south side, he's swinging in with the roach reinforced. He's just poking in, poking out, poking in, poking out, and at the same time, he finds the weakness on the south side.
Scarlett, she can only have these Ravagers in one place. It's so difficult to micro them on both fronts, and she's starting to see some of the weaknesses of that. She's gonna lose her fourth base again. Serral snipes it off, retreats out, doesn't even lose that much, and Scarlett forced into another awkward position. She's nearly maxed out, so it's not as bad as before, but that income advantage for Serral, that larva advantage is gonna start to go in his favor once again.
Yeah, nice play here by Serral. Of course, those queens shooing those Mutalisks away. The Ravagers, remember, they're very powerful in the mid-game, but they're also 3 supply each. And she tries to counterattack, is caught completely out of position.
Serral, so on point in this game, puts her down to 2 bases once again. Scarlett just gonna try and go for broke right now, because I don't think she has any other options. This Roach is killing her drones. Serral is someone out of position to defend. Roach Wound's gonna get taken out, so no reinforcements gonna be coming out for a bit. There are still the Hydras, though.
But he's ready to flank in from 2 sides. He's got an army on the south and an army on the north. She can't let herself get sandwiched. The corrosive bile gives her a lot of power. She finds one half of the army. She's gonna dive on it, zoning corrosive Biles trying to keep out the other half of the army, but Serral somehow consolidates, sets up an amazing concave of Roach Hydra whilst doing damage on the other side of the map at the same time.
Scarlett not able to transition back out, still sitting on those 2 bases with her hat-trick getting canceled. She's just going all in on this. More Ravagers being made. Serral abandoning that base, it looks like right now, as he knows he's put her into such an all-in position. Finally, Scarlett moves forward and sees your army's not here anymore. Serral is okay with it, though. He knows that all he has to do is hold on for this attack as his economy just continues to skyrocket.
Oh, it's a trap! It's a massive trap! 30 Ravagers of Scarlett get ambushed! The Roaches of Serral unburrowing on top of those vulnerable units takes down a good number of them. 22 Ravagers still standing strong. These Roaches of Serral, though, creating a problem on Scarlett's side of the map once again. The Hydras and the Ravagers have so much damage output, he has to evade the Biles. Scarlett is all in on this push. She has to break through with this army here, and Serral is not going to let her do it.
Serral preventing her from moving forward, keeping that mining base so unbelievably safe. Scarlett doing a great job with the corrosive biles to try and zone out this army, but she's not landing. She's on a timer, and she's starting to feel the pressure. She's trying to move forward, but Serral just won't allow it. He's taking another base, Pig.
These Ravagers are so vulnerable in a pitched battle, and every time Serral dodges the Biles, they have to disengage. Once again, he just falls back, does eat a few Biles there, but Scarlett's force is just smaller now. There's so few Roaches mixed in. These 2 Roaches of Serral still creating such a problem for the Canadian Zerg. She's desperate. She needs to try and finish the game with this army. It's been such a back and forth series, but the #1 ranked WCS player, the 3-time champion, does not want to let it happen. He's still got the perfect angling, evading most of the corrosive biles and collapsing on top of the Canadians' army. Scarlett's Ravagers falling here, and in these last final moments, Serral shuts down the army, forces out the GG, and takes the 3-2 victory.
Serral takes out one of the big players that everyone thought may have been able to beat him. Serral says, no, I'm moving on to that semifinals. I'm ready for another championship. Unbelievable play from our God King Serral. He is just undefeatable, it feels like. Even now, Scarlett getting so close, but Serral still shuts her down. And I just cannot wait to hear what Serral has to say about that series, as I think Sue is going to be on the main stage in just a moment's time to hear from the man himself.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Congratulations, Serral. What an incredible series against Scarlett. It was really well fought from her, but you come through once again and show why you are the 3-time WCS champion. Did you expect that it would be this close once again?
Yeah, I mean, I consider Scarlett's one of the harder players to play against, and I mean, she always delivers, so I was kind of expecting it to be hard, but also at the same time, I was kind of expecting that I would win pretty nicely, but I mean, expected and not expected.
The series played out remarkably similarly to how it did in Valencia, where back in Valencia, she was up 2-1, had an advantage in the 4th map, and it was sort of similar this time around too. Lost and found, she was up 2-1. She had the tech advantage. I was wondering what was going on through your head at that time, as it was looking like it could be scary there.
I was pretty confident the 4th game. I didn't really feel too much behind in any point. I kind of knew what she was doing all the time and just reacted to it. I did some mistakes with our supply blocks and that, and that's why I might have been a bit behind. But I'm always very confident if I get to the Pro Road stage and manage to close it out there then.
A lot of the people were talking about how if anyone was going to take you down, it was going to be Scarlett, as she's the one that's had the closest series against you this year. Now that you've gotten her out of the way, out of the players that are left in this bracket, who do you see as the biggest threat, if at all?
I see everyone as a threat, but the biggest threat maybe, I don't know. Personally, for me, I have hardest time playing against Scarlett and U-Thermal, so maybe U-Thermal. But I think Lamp and Showtime both are great, and other matches are going to be super hard. But I don't know, for some reason, Quarterfinals is very hard for me. So.
Well, congratulations again with that. Serral is in the top 4 of yet his 4th WCS in a row once again. Nathanius, back to you.
Expected and unexpected. Serral manages to claw his way out of that dicey scenario. Gentlemen, he just does not seem capable of losing.
Well, Nathanius, yes and no. This was a very close series. I think Scarlett did an amazing job making this very nice. Of course, she had her signature cheeky play. We got the spine crawler rush, which was a bit of a, not quite a free win, because I did like Serral's response to that, but it just wasn't quite enough. But I just love Serral's tenacity. It goes into game 5. It has that back and forth moment. It's a little bit scary, but he's just, like you said, when he gets to the Burrowed Roach stage, he feels very confident. You can see why. Constantly doing the right thing to get back into it. There's even the game, I think it was game 4, where he was way behind, but with the Burrowed Roaches, made it closer than it felt. He's just really awesome to watch.
I loved it, Nate. What an amazing way to start. I think our final day, that was a really cool quarterfinal. And it felt similar to Valencia. Maybe the lead in game 4 wasn't as big, obviously, as it was back then on Darkness. But I love the timing on Acid Plant. That really was so similar to Dreamcatcher back then, right? You look at Serral's army, Lurkers, Hydras, you're like, well, if Scarlett wants to win this game, she has to do it right here, right now. And then she does. You're like, oh my goodness, he's up 2-1 again. That final game was crazy as well. I love the Burrowed Roach play. A little bit of a J-Dong flashback almost there. Maybe you could say he was going to win anyway, Serral that is, but it was still a really cool move. I loved it. I love the approach that Scarlett had again in the early games. You know, it started off with a very quick bailing rush, then we had lots of Spire play, then she hit some 3-pull before hatch. I love that she's switching it up and she doesn't make it easy for Serral, but yeah, Serral did pull through in the end.
And with that, he does move on, as you were saying, to the semifinals here at WCS Montreal. We're going to take a look at an updated bracket for all of you. Serral stands waiting the winner of Lambo and Showtime. That'll be our next match. Euthermal and Rainer on the other side. He was talking about Euthermal, the only other player that he struggles with in this bracket. Roddy, is the Dutch dream real, perhaps?
The Dutch dream is always real, Nate. I love how he sneaked that in. He's like, I kind of have a tough time against Euthermal, and then he's like, I don't know why. You know, I love that. He's like, I'm Serral. I'm not supposed to have a tough time against anyone. You know, Nate, I do want to touch on one thing real quick. Of course, Serral's year is already amazing, and Jeff, you often say you've never seen something like this before when it comes to a non-Korean in StarCraft 2. But when it purely comes to the 4 WCS stops, Serral has now also officially outperformed Neep compared to last year. Of course, Neep won 3 out of 4 tournaments last year, just like Serral has done, but Neep lost 1 time in the quarterfinals, and now Serral, of course, advancing to the semifinals, so he has officially taken that from Neep. But if you really want to get into the stats real quick, the only thing that Neep will hold is that last year Neep won a tournament going 17-2, and Serral has already lost more than 2 maps in every single tournament, so Neep will hold on to that record.
Do his victories even count in Control?
You stumped me twice. I'm like, I can't be the guy. I'm not going to say anymore.
We're going to take a look at the schedule. We're just moving down the bracket. It's a smooth Sunday afternoon over here in Montreal. As we wrap things up, we've got Lambo versus Showtime up next, and Time versus Hero Marine, and Euthermal versus Rainer. But then, don't worry, we're getting into the semis. We're getting into the grand finals. There's lots of great StarCraft action coming up. You're watching WCS Montreal. We'll be right back with our next series after this break.